happy belated Thanksgiving. Welcome to Popping Off Pink. We've been MIA, I think, for the past couple months. What you been up to? Oh, I'm Chi.
I'm Kimber. For those of you who don't remember, or
if
you're just joining
listening?
us, that's us. That's who we are. Think the past few months were much needed. I think everyone's kind of experiencing things in different ways, but ultimately under the same crazy weird ass umbrella. But it's been great. I celebrated my what are people calling it now? My solar return.
Mm-hmm.
I celebrated my 27th trip around the goddamn sun.
Happy belated.
Thank you.
So, Kimber celebrated her most recent solar return, like in the past few weeks, and I celebrated mine while we've been on hiatus too. So we both. I'd love to tell you that we planned it, and that's why we were MIA, but
absolutely not.
Yes,
it just felt. I feel like that's just how things kind of flowed. There's no scandalous backstory. No fallout. We were in touch the entire time.
She had me in a headlock.
Yeah, you know.
She was like, "Say uncle."
You know, like, we were in touch the entire time. So it's not as though, we have any, like, dramatic controversy going on. We're not that kind of show. No. But yeah, just much needed. I went out to Cali, which was
I was jealous.
Cute.
I was living vicariously through your Instagram stories. Like, oh my God, what is she doing next?
Just
what
got
is
a
this?
little taste of sunlight, and then now I'm back stewing in this cold bullshit.
I'm loving the cold, I have to say. I'm sorry. I know everybody hates when I say that, but I love it. And the more things that die, the colder it gets, the better. There's just certain...
the more things that die. I
live in New York. I live in the city. Like, there's certain things that die out as it gets colder, and I'm happy about it. I have to be honest. Not everything, but certain species.
I mean, mosquitoes, for one.
The rat population goes down.
Does it now?
Just saying.
Okay. Wow.
They don't breed as... Anyway, not that I've looked into it that far, but...
Well, yeah. Either way, I'm happy to be back. The day has been interesting for us both. We're twinning on some, like, neurotic bag of nuts kind of bullshit.
Neurotic is a word that accurately describes what has been going on.
We're on some shit today, so definitely see what
this
comes
is my
about.
Shiro to everybody watching and listening.
Can't. Oh, goodness.
She-Ra. So is so much going on. So let me just level set. So we got like a month left in 2019.
Before the end of the decade.
We're going to get into some 2019 stuff a little bit later. There's a lot going on, but as usual, we have to talk about what's pushing the culture, or I feel like poking the culture. Same man, but we're going to talk about Kanye West.
Oh my gosh.
Because depending on, this is my read of Twitter, not even just social media, because Twitter is where everyone's talking more. So yeah, given my read of Twitter, Kanye is either pushing the culture again, as he has done many times, forward, or he's poking at it, depending on who you are following on Twitter and what they're saying. Because a lot of people are like, no matter what you think, other people are going to follow suit. I've already seen some hints of that. Whether they're going to be talking more about their spirituality or their religion or some amalgamation of the two. Or folks are just like, oh, this is just, which makes no sense, a money grab because he needs to do this for money.
People love to say that. And I mean, seeing as though Kanye has bestowed upon us this biblical work of art, we can reference certain track listings as scriptures at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, it's not in the Chick-fil-A song, but he says he's not going to let his family starve. And I think we can all relate to that sentiment. So
there's been a lot actually said about
let's
that
not.
line, believe it or not.
I'm sure.
Not in a bad way, just more
I'm
like
sure.
more like joking, like he's not gonna stop. He said something about, I think it was no, it wasn't the Chick-fil-A song, but he was like, I'm not gonna be on Dancing with the Stars.
Right, exactly.
And then the people from Dancing with the Stars got offended and tweeted something.
I mean,
it was all tongue in cheek, but anyway, what we're talking about, unless you've been under a rock, is the Jesus is King album, which, you know, both avid Kanye fans, and it's interesting because the Jesus is King album came out 2 days after my birthday, and then the opera came out, like, was it on your birthday, I feel like, or like right around your birthday also. So
I think like maybe a day later.
Been giving us gifts. But let's start with the album. Where do we want to start?
Well, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that my nails at the time were unknowingly Jesus is King themed.
Nice.
I had the Jesus is King blue, and I had like these orange stones on my middle fingers. So I was just like, I was right here with it. So yeah, but definitely a beautiful body of work. It's still very, to the disappointment of the fickle fans, it's still very new Kanye. I feel like since Yeezus, he's been doing like a lot of deconstructed production.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything's very stripped down and everything's in line with like even, you know, like his clothing line and just who he is as a person. Like it's definitely him coming out of the last two phases that we saw, which was the life of Pablo and pretty much every project before that. I feel like he's past that like I guess confusing, crazy, kind of stagnated space he was in the Yeezus album.
Yeah.
I feel like he's definitely past that in this, and it's just beautiful to witness, and I was very touched by it. It was awesome. It was so awesome. I'm so proud of him.
Yes, same. I agree with everything you said, but I'm going to come from the angle of, we talked about, oh my God, a while ago, when we thought it was going to be Yandi. And he even had a line, and I don't remember what song, but he said that Jesus bleached or something, cleansed what would have been
Jesus
Yandi.
did the laundry, yeah.
Thank you. And so whatever Yandi was going to be, it's like, nope, I'm not going to completely scrap it, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to flip it. And so Yandi, we all know, was like a play on Gandhi, peace loving and faith and love. And so we got bits of that as part of Jesus is King. We don't know all the details about the transformation the transition from Yandi to Jesus is King. However, I will say that regardless of your connection, or if you don't have a connection to Christian faith, the Bible, Christianity, like, it could have been a different artist. It could have been someone other than Kanye West. They could have been talking about their Muslim faith or being a Buddhist or, you know, practicing Judaism. And I still would have found something to appreciate. So, like, the folks that are so much focused on the religious aspect of it, I get it on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, you don't have to be a member of said church to be able to enjoy the music or get something from it or be inspired. For me, I think it's just the evolution of, and I don't want to get too far into this because we're going to talk about astrology later, but I couldn't help but think of people like Prince, who happens to also be a Gemini, like Kanye, and started out with, you know, the down and dirty songs and did the movie Purple Rain, and the soundtrack was very sensual and sexual. And he did the Batman soundtrack with Do Me Baby and all that. And then he went back to being a Jehovah's Witness, and he continued to make music, but definitely was not the music he was making in the 80s, and, you know, wore his religion to an extent on his sleeve. And then from a spiritual standpoint, I can't help but think of another famous Gemini, Lauryn Hill, who basically people will say she had a breakdown, she went crazy, whatever. But I would say she had maybe what looked like that, but she was having more of an awakening and spoke out about the demons or whatever of the music industry. So I feel like it's just par for the course for like really talented, brilliant people, and especially those that happen to be of the Gemini flavor for whatever reason. I think any artist
is also a good example.
Is she a Gemini too?
I believe she is. Yeah,
that makes sense. So it's just like the transformation, and I don't feel the need to be particularly judgmental in one direction or the other, because I just happen to enjoy watching an artist's growth and transformation alongside the parallel line that is his life. So, you know, even if I was like, oh, I really didn't connect to this album, I can't stand the message, I don't like it. It was interesting. I watched one of the Sunday service, was the one he did.
You were at a Sunday service.
Well, I talked about that. Yes, I talked about that on the last episode when I was actually in Chicago.
I know, but it's just.
But this was
there.
This was the first. Oh no, I know now. I know why this one stood out. This was the first one post the album coming out, and they live streamed it. And I don't remember which venue in LA, but whatever. It was beautiful. It was flowers everywhere. And as I'm watching it towards the end, the first thought I had, he put North on his shoulders. And you had the choir, and it was like in a circle, and it was like all this greenery. And I was like, wow, what a moment. What a picture to have this rap superstar have his daughter on stage with him the whole time. And it's not uncomfortable because he's not using any profanity. There's no girls on stage with the booty out. Like, she can literally stand there innocently and join in the production and join in the show or just witness it. And there was even another little girl that came up with North at some point. I'm guessing like a family friend. But it was like that in itself, regardless of everything else, was beautiful to me. Because I don't know too many people in hip hop, especially male superstars, that could have their, is she 5 now? Like 5-year-old daughter on stage and not have to cover her ears or change the lyrics or something like that.
But these are the things that people are overlooking, and instead they're choosing to focus on his use of religion. Meanwhile, I'm sure you're still going down to that big church on your block and shelling out in the collection plate for the pastor that probably has like at least 2 choir women pregnant and the first lady sitting there looking stupid, you know? I understand your sentiment as far as like it being based on anyone or coming from anyone, but as far as I'm concerned, I just need people to refocus their attention. It's like, stop getting so caught up on the religious aspect of it. Just look at it for what it is. It's a progression in someone's life that we're witnessing for the better. And I just don't think anyone really is in good standing religion-wise or just life-wise to talk the shit that they talk.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me. It's either someone's complaining about how they miss the old Kanye, or they're saying he's full of shit. And he did say on the album that the first one to judge him will be the Christians. And, you know, people are just falling into that hole and just proving him right.
That's a good point. You said he mentioned in the album, and I remember the line, he's like, they'll be the first ones to judge me, make me feel like nobody loved me. So not only does he feel that way, he's saying it on wax. So why do you think, in spite of that, and just your own opinion, why do you think he still felt compelled to do this project anyway?
Because he's Kanye West. That's just the bottom line. He's always consistently been himself, and he's always consistently told the truth, be it unpopular, be it unpolished. He hasn't always said it in the nicest way. He hasn't always had the most popular ideas, but he has a lot of confidence in himself and a lot of faith in himself, period. And he knows things as far as the direction that his life is going to take, what he's intended to do. He's very aware.
So what about, playing devil's advocate, conspiracy theory?
Mm-hmm. I love conspiracy theories.
So some people,
all about those.
Also because this is an election year, I guess people are more sensitive about politics, right? And then he's made hints, and maybe not so much hints, about potentially running for president in 2024. So, he has openly supported Donald Trump. And so some folks' conspiracy theory is that, historically conservatives or Republicans are more tied to Christianity. And so that this is somehow tied to that. Like, this is political. And he's like setting the tone or setting the stage for that run. Now, I've never heard anybody say that he would run as a Republican per se.
Right.
But I think because he has openly supported Donald Trump, and now it's like, oh, so now he's actually in line with the conservatives, Christianity and that type of thing.
I wouldn't even go that far. Kanye is about as in line with Donald Trump and more over the conservatives as Chrisette Michele is with black people since doing the inaugural performance. And I don't think that this would be a Kanye West presidential campaign album. I think, like I said before, that it is just about his progression. This is just another page in the book, and I the idea that he supports Trump, I don't think he supports Trump per se. I think he supports what he's been saying when he mentions Trump, offering compassion and offering to help support a world leader in making changes that will benefit humanity. I think that's what he's in support of, in spite of it being someone that we all basically despise and don't really have time for and don't really acknowledge. I think that's what he was trying to demonstrate.
Another Gemini, by the way.
Jesus Christ. Well,
so I'm just gonna play with words for a minute. So Gemini's, okay, the twins, the two sides, the two faces, depending on your personal experience. Feel free to drop a comment. I think it is a coincidence, and it's not a coincidence that Donald Trump is also a Gemini like Kanye. However, I do see
levels of.
There's different levels of contradiction. So this is just, again, me just spitballing. Kanye has talked very passionately about, recently he talked about using folks who have come out of prison, not people in prison, and like prison labor, which every major corporation that you probably give money to in some way or another, whether it's clothing or your telephone company, or your underwear, if you buy from Victoria's Secret, use prison labor, right?
Yeah.
So he's talking about when people come out, making sure that they have jobs. And he spoke very passionately, whether it's in that particular issue or not, having more jobs come back to the United States or creating more jobs. And by jobs, we don't mean, what's been all the rage, coding and like tech jobs, but actual manufacturing jobs, which used to be a huge staple for a lot of us, no matter what background, whether you're immigrant, American, African American. A lot of us descended from people who maybe they didn't go to college, but they made a great living from being able to go a couple miles down the road and work in a factory and actually even buy homes and have retirement and stuff like that. And we're seeing even more so with this push for college, less people are going to college because people have watched their siblings or aunts who are 10, 15 years older still grappling with student loan debt, or, in some cases, depending on your age, your parents. So you have people that are like, I'm not doing that shit. And then you have people who just like, I don't think it's for me. And if you are one of the people that's like, I don't think it's for me, right? And you don't really know what it is for you. You used to be able to at least do something in a factory or manufacturing, and those jobs just don't exist anymore. So a lot of the unemployment numbers, if you look a little deeper, reflect underemployment, which means there's just a whole bunch of people that are not in the workforce.
Just waiting to work with their hands.
Weren't in the workforce, stopped applying for jobs. So I think that's where this is my opinion, this is not based in any research. I think that's where he overlaps with what Trump has talked about. Whether he's done it or not, I don't know. I'm not Googling it. You can Google it. But he talked a lot about, we need to bring back, jobs that were sent overseas or sent to Mexico or whatever. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, I don't know if it's necessarily connected to Trump per se. I'm just going to go by party. And I'm not even saying that Kanye is Republican, because I don't think he is. I think he's probably more libertarian or something like that. But when you look at so-called values, and this is where another contradiction comes into play, because he's married into the Kardashian family. And so there was a clip that went viral, and I don't watch the show, so I only saw the clip, where he's talking to Kim about how she's dressed, and she's basically like, look, I understand you're on your journey, but I'm not on that journey with you. You are on your journey. I'm still doing me. Like, leave me the hell alone about what I'm wearing.
Countdown to the divorce end.
And a lot of people thought that was, well, there was a lot of conversation around, because some of the conversation was like, well, duh, you married Kim Kardashian. And then the other half of the conversation was like, well, yes, he married Kim Kardashian, but that was 4 kids ago. And so you grow, you evolve, and hopefully they evolve as a couple, right? And he even made comments about, this was like 2 years ago. People were like, why is North dressing like this? And why does she have on lipstick? He has talked about that in some of his music. And I think more poignantly in Closed on Sunday, he's basically telling you, of course, a big part of that song is, Kim, just give me one day where you're not on Instagram. But if you really listen to that song and the sentiment behind it, what he's really trying to do is fight for his kids and saying, in his own way, these are my values that I want. He says my sons. He's not just talking about his daughters. Yeah. So he has a set of values from a familial perspective that he wants carried through his daughters and his sons. And so just everything I just said, those are highlighting like a lot of contradictions. Like, you have these values, you're married into this family. You have these values, you're supporting Trump. But where you see there's like overlap, I guess, is the beauty and the madness of Kanye West. The other thing
I think, embodying a thought process or the embodiment of trial and error. I think that's the contradiction or the duality to Kanye West, trial and error.
Absolutely right. The only other, I'm trying to think, what else did I think about the album?
Did you just say album?
Yes, I said album. There were certain songs that I felt like they were too short. Like Follow God was one of my favorites. I wanted to touch on that video with his dad. So you have people who are like, oh, I'm a diehard Kanye West, but for some reason they thought his dad wasn't in his life. Ray West. He's talked about his dad. He's talked about the fact that his dad is a really successful photographer in his own right.
Probably the same people that miss the old Kanye.
I'm like, how did you not know that? They're like, oh, his dad's in his life? And I'm like, that's not new information. Like, he even talked about spending summers with his dad after his parents split, and his mom left Atlanta and went to Chicago. Anywho, so Follow God, which is like, I think the #1 song off the album and was #1 on some streaming service. Don't give me the line. There's too many out there. But that was like, even people who hated the project loved that song.
Right. Yeah.
And I love the song he sampled. I've been listening to that song. And I'm trying to think. I don't know the artist because it's not somebody anybody would know. I certainly didn't know. But the name of the actual track is You Can't Lose by Following God or something like that.
Okay.
YouTube knows. I listen to that often. But I love the fact that he had his dad in the video. And I just have to say, regardless of what we think about any aspect of his life, when he was showing like the wildlife in Wyoming, you couldn't help but just feel this overwhelming sense of peace. Mm-hmm. And even though he wasn't in that shot and his dad wasn't in that shot, I felt like looking at that, I could immediately tell where his peace of mind is. Like I was like looking into his mind and like, oh, that's where he is right now in
exactly.
life. I got all this land. I got alpacas and all emus and all types of shit. I got whatever. Well, I don't know what those vehicles were that they were riding around in, but it was dope. Definitely don't have a hip hop video that is similar. Like even again, just the visual. Like take the song away, take the album away, take your personal feelings out of it.
Please.
Pushing it forward, okay? So I'm pretty sure going into 2020 and throughout 2020, we're about to see some very interesting visuals in hip hop that are it's probably already some in progress, to be honest, where they're out in like a big ass field or who knows.
Everyone's slipping into that minimalist thing, but I think it's more so important to pay attention to, because people love to write these things off as trends or coincidences. I'm sorry, everybody can't be doing the same shit for no reason.
Right.
So I think it's important to pay attention to the energy and the intention behind those visuals, because, you know, FKA Twigs recently did something with Future.
Yeah, with you.
And it was like, you know, in the same kind of setting, you know, that barren wasteland setting. And
I like that song, but it kind of creeps me out also.
But you see, like,
because I'm like, what am I hearing in the background? Are those chipmunks? What it?
Right.
And then there's like some trance music going on top of it's like chipmunk vocals, trance music, and I'm just like,
right. And if
I
you
don't
really
know what's happening.
identify what those things are, I'm sure it's probably even worse than you're describing it. Probably. So just pay attention to those.
But she didn't
energies.
get pregnant. She did a whole video on a song.
He wasn't in the video though. You noticed that, right?
So that's the secret. If
gotta steer clear. Collab, just send me what you recorded.
It's like the Beyonce baby
I'll
boy.
I'll send you the beat. You put something on it. We splice it together, but not once were we ever in the same vicinity. Oh my God.
Yeah, because if he looked at her, she would be pregnant.
She would be doing all kinds of the stuff that she can do.
I can't.
But yeah,
someone said that so this week he dropped another very short video for Closed on Sunday. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Did you see any scenes from it?
I've been like off of social media, off.
When you see it, tell me what you think, because someone said, a commenter said that they thought he was inspired by Solange visually, the way it was shot.
But again, Solange, like when I was out in LA, I went to the Getty Center and she did like a visual thing, and it was very much that very minimal, you know, primary or tertiary colors only.
That's how my wedding's gonna be, y'all.
Oh Lord.
And there will be some choreography.
No,
that y'all will have to learn.
Oh my
the
God.
Bridal party will have to yes.
Okay. Well, again,
you can only do it once.
Thankfully, like life, right? Jesus Christ. But
you were saying the Getty Center, LA, Solange.
It was more in line with these reoccurring themes that we're seeing, and you know, like the aesthetic that we're seeing, where everything is minimal, clean lines, this and that. But in that, there is numerology. There's like all kinds of sorcery and like backmasking, all kinds of shit going on. In Solange's. And we're probably like, I'm probably going to get like a black bag thrown over my head at random. You know, our show will probably disappear after I say this. But,
oh, God.
Girl, there was something to whatever it was you had them dancers doing, repeating numbers. They were saying shit like 10, 10, 10,
no.
2,
what?
5, 6, 7, 8. But like, and it seems like they're just they're saying their counts out loud, but then it brings the question, why?
Right. And now
And then the
I would want to know
stuttering
what
of the
those numbers
numbers
add up to. My ass would have been calculating the whole time.
Right. So
like, what are we doing? We doing a 9 of
we're
the
pushing
universe?
the
What are we
culture,
doing?
We're evolving the culture, but make sure that these people aren't calling something forward on you that you as the listener aren't open to or aren't prepared for.
It's interesting you say that because I listen to different vibrations. So the love vibration is 528 hertz. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing that for the past 5 years. So I'm very, 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 very sensitive to frequencies. And I have to say, it did take me about 3 listens of this album to really get into it. But the whole time I noticed that the album is at a very high frequency. I would, if someone out there knows how to measure, do it, let me know. I'm not saying it's at the 528 love tone. I would not be surprised if it is, though. The frequency of the album, just the opening song, that choir, I can't. And I've been I'm not gonna say anti. With the exception of this album and like a couple other things, I need to listen to the Games album. It just dropped, so I don't have a review for you yet. But we are gonna do a review of all 25 songs. Thank you, Jason, and happy birthday, Jason. You are now 40, so congrats.
40 and
but what was I saying? I was talking about the frequency.
Yeah.
The frequency. Yes, and I have not been listening to hip hop. That's what I want to tell y'all. It's been, at first I thought it was just a fluke. It was like one Sunday I was on YouTube. I started listening to Motown, and then I started listening to people who were around during Motown, but they're not as well known. Y'all don't realize how many black groups were out there. It's ridiculous. Like, I can't even tell you. I can send you my playlist.
Yeah.
Because I've been adding them, and I'm like, who are these people? It's a group out of St. Louis, a group out of Cleveland.
And not all of them had the formula to
but they were
succeed.
All, but
they were all really good.
They would put who you are calling the current king and queens of R&B to shame.
That's singing to their backing tracks during these live shows with no choreography, by the way.
And these are not even the most famous of these were just people who were like, hey, Kimber's my neighbor. I'm a first soprano.
Rehearsals
she's a whatever. Let's do this. That's who these people were.
Let's go cut a record.
What happened to us? What happened? Black people, I need y'all to put some choirs together.
I fucking can't.
There's something about a black choir. I'm sorry.
No, it touches my soul. I feel you on that.
So I don't know if I'm going to return because I feel like a little baby, like in a little cocoon or something. I don't know. But I just feel very good about the music I've been listening to.
Because it reflects that thing that you've been submersing yourself in for 5 years. It reflects what your heart and soul and mind are all about.
Ooh. I've turned into a softie listening to this.
I mean, I'm a romantic heifer myself, and I love me a good sad love song. I love harmonies. I'm a sucker. I love romantic music.
Oh my God.
But that's because I was raised in love, I practice love, and that's my religion of choice. Unless I'm very angry.
Oh, we definitely don't want
that.
But
yeah, that's why. And that's why I kind of steer clear of hip-hop for the most part myself, because it just doesn't reflect my virtues or my values, and I can't relate. And sometimes, you know, if I'm not sober, I'm especially like very sensitive to like energies and, you know, sounds, especially frequencies, like you said. And hip-hop is just like, I just feel like y'all are missing all of this. Like, I just feel so hollow sometimes when I hear certain things.
Well,
I don't know how y'all do it.
We love to be different and we love to be random, and we can't help it. Like, even if we didn't want to, it just is what it is. So now we're just gonna make 1 or 2 just random ass predictions about this album. But before we do that, he just also did an opera last weekend, and I thought it was interesting.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Like you said, he's always been genuine, right? So no matter if it was braggadocio, arrogance, whatever. When he was all about watch the throne, it was like, all right, I'm showing up in a gold kilt, like whatever. Nebuchadnezzar, I don't know the whole story, but it was like this dude that thought he was the shit for 7 years. He's like,
he was basically an evil king.
I'm all that. Like, I'm God, I'm this. And then, he did Jesus. I am a God. And, there's very strong parallels to the story of Nebuchadnezzar. And so I don't know, but I think that's why he chose that particular Bible story to make an opera. So any predictions about, what's going on with the Jesus is King vibe?
I definitely, my forecast for Jesus is King, as far as sales and all that shit, like, I'm not even going to pay attention to that, because I think at this point, while Kanye is still, like, revered and he still makes the news, as far as his recent musical projects, it's only been relegated to people that really fuck with him. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even going to talk about like billboards or any of that. What I do see though in the future is that he is going to expand, and he's kind of taking on this Messiah kind of thing, and it honestly concerns me, mm-hmm. because I feel like there are only two particular paths that a Messiah can take, or someone that assumes that can take, and history has shown that it is either a passing, a tragic passing,
Lord Jesus.
or just a level of ascension that leads into being a reclusive person.
Mm-hmm. I could see that one.
So I
Hence
feel...
Hence the ranch.
Right. So it can go in either way. And I feel like this generation is fucking crazy enough and he is exposing himself enough to where if there isn't some kind of attack on him, eventually it will result in something more extreme, especially seeing as though he's making like all of these environmental strides, mm-hmm. with like the farming and trying to start these communities, and he's aware that
and he's trying to help the homeless.
Right.
We didn't touch on that.
All of those things eventually lead into those two options. Like, I can't even repeat it again, but that's where I see it going.
My two really super quick predictions. I don't know if anyone has a tally, but if you remember that song he did called Power, mm-hmm. I was floored, and I'm not even a cinephile, at how many movies use that song. Mm-hmm. So I think, people don't realize that they're trying to downplay this album. I think you're going to see some songs from this album in some movies.
There will be money, for
because
sure.
Because it's just... It's very, like I said, very spiritual, very uplifting.
Christmas is coming.
So I think you're going to see it in black movies. You're going to see it in, more mainstream movies. But my prediction is that in keeping with previous works that he's done, you are going to see this music. I don't see commercials, but maybe. I'm thinking more movie. I don't know what, the movies are going to be.
Imagine every hour playing while mom drives into her driveway in her Christmas Ford commercial. Like, come on now. Someone's going to do something with that.
My other really quick prediction is there are some really, because, shameless plug, hip-hop scriptures, I get so many independent artists, and I'm really backed up again. Every time I get to a certain point with my email, it gets backed up again. So there's a lot of artists I need to go back and give feedback to. There's a film I need to give feedback to. But I try my best to share via Twitter. If it's good enough, I'll share it on the blog of upcoming artists. And I want to just shout out and say there are a lot of talented artists, rappers who are Christian rappers that no one's ever heard of. The reason I'm bringing them up, I think the first time I listened to this album, before I could really get into it, I just kind of chuckled and I was like, I know people are in uproar, but this sounds exactly like Kanye West trying to make a gospel album. It didn't sound not Kanye, and it didn't sound like it wasn't a gospel album, but it sounded like Kanye West trying to make a gospel album. And so because, like you said, the diehards, but there's even some folks that have crossed over, people that do not listen to hip hop, mm-hmm. that I've seen white, older blacks, and others who were like, I can't stop playing this album. Mm-hmm. So I think because of that, it's all about progress. It's not about this album winning a Grammy. That's not what you do when you push something forward or when you experiment. It's about the progress, the progression. So I think you're going to see more really talented Christian rappers try to co-opt or adopt some of what was successful about this album and use it in their own work. So those are my two quick predictions. One thing we wanted to get into, because we talk about it, it's kind of a duh moment, I think, for this podcast. We talk about astrology so much on this show. I was like, let's have a little fun. Neither one of us, disclaimer, are astrologers.
Nope.
You can definitely find your favorite ones on social media or on YouTube. That is not what we are. We're just having some fun right now. Mm-hmm. But I will say, it seems like more people are now starting to get into things like their natal charts and aspects and all that stuff.
Burning sage and using words like energy and other things that you don't actually know.
So what I'm reading, and we're going to have some fun with some of our favorite celebrities, including Kanye's charts, is just for fun. Let me just say that.
Just for fun.
Emphasize. And what I'm reading is just like very skimming the top level. If you want to go deeper into this type of stuff, Google and YouTube is your damn friend, okay? So we're going to talk about, and Kimber, feel free to jump in. We're just going to talk about a few things that are in everyone's chart, what we think they mean, and where they land in Kanye Omari West chart.
Yes.
At least from what Google says, assuming Google's telling us the truth. We're going to look at his moon, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. So the moon, learn your chart, people. Your moon is representative of your emotional self. Mm-hmm. And Kimber, your moon is
Scorpio.
So Scorpio is the most intense of the signs. But I know I kid, but I mean, I'm not really. Have y'all heard of Drizzy Drake? So Drake's birthday is the day after my birthday. So that's where the crazy comes in. But if you want a little bit more of an open door into craziness, my moon, like Drake's, is in Cancer. And I think the only even similar emotional level of moon signs to Scorpio is Cancer. So God bless y'all for being our listeners and our viewers. Kanye, however, his moon is in Pisces. And even if your moon is not in Pisces, we all know some Pisces in our life, and they're very special, emotional people.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to skim, because I'm not an astrologer. Can't say that enough. What Google says about people who have a Pisces moon. So if you are listening and you have a Pisces moon, that is something you have in common with Mr. Kanye West. So it says they're constantly picking up on the feelings of others, along with the mood and the atmosphere around them. They have an innate ability that allows them to read a crowd. Sounds like Kanye.
That he does.
Easily sensing its emotional highs and lows. Positives of this sign, or characteristics of people who have a moon, positives are that they are creative, sensitive, empathetic, affectionate, caring, and have a really big imagination.
That he does.
And the negatives. I don't think that's a negative, but okay. It says empathy, intuitive, artistic, selfless. Maybe that's a negative.
Absolutely.
Generous, emotional, and quite popular. Oh, now this I've heard from numerous people about Kanye. Being a genuine friend to everyone.
Those could be negatives. It all sounds like extremes and excesses. So
that is his emotional self, because we are best friends with Kanye. So anyway, his Venus is the next thing we're going to talk about. Venus is typically associated with
love and how you show love.
I'm not divulging mine. But I think ours is in the same sign.
Mine is in Capricorn.
Oh, then no. Mine is in, I'm just going to say mine has a very intense, you can guess, placement. So
is it Scorpio?
Yes, and it's a gift and a curse, because not to say anyone else doesn't love hard, but
As a Sagittarius, Scorpio cusper, it's Scorpio moon and Scorpio rising.
Venus and Scorpio people, and this is not any type of pat on the back. Shout out to Lovely Chaos because she got a Venus and Scorpio too. People who date Venus and Scorpio, if for whatever reason, God forbid, you break up, they are very difficult to get over. And the reason is because it's a ridiculous, intense type of love. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's bad. And I'm definitely not patting myself on the back.
It's not good at all.
Typically, and I've seen this with other people, it's very hard for their exes to get over them because, and again, not good or bad. It's just that it's so intense, it's hard to like step back from that.
Yeah, no, it's bad.
But Kanye's Venus is in Taurus.
Which I can't even begin.
Are you ready for this read? So Venus and Taurus folks are warmly affectionate, intensely loyal, but also somewhat possessive.
I've heard this about Taurians.
He's the most sensual and touchy-feely of all the Venus placements.
To think back to those pictures with Amber on the red carpet.
Exactly. Plentiful. This is the word they use. Plentiful physical contact with those they love is very important to Venus and Taurus people. So there you go. If you're dating someone, we just gave you a gift with Venus and Taurus, or if you yourself have Venus and Taurus, now you got the skinny.
And if you don't know, you should find out so you can stop dating, trash
if it's
people.
not something you want, Let's see. And then funny enough, I don't remember everything, but because of all my Scorpio placements, I will say I know that Mars has a lot to do with your sexual life. I don't know what else Mars has to do with.
Mars is how you react to situations as well. It's like your temperament like as well as your sexual drive.
So Kanye also has, he also has his Mars in Taurus. These people have a strong sexuality. This gives them determination and endurance. I'm not going to even touch that one. I'm not going to touch that one.
Oh my God.
Their energies are focused on acquiring material possessions and wealth. Mm-hmm. They are jealous and possessive by nature in regards to love. Their sex drive is extremely strong. Well, we have 4 kids. Yeah, it just says that they always need to follow their sexual feelings no matter what.
Wow.
A lot of stuff in here about sex. They tend to be calm, grounded, and practical with a respect for beauty. They see beauty in life and feel best when they're allowed to sit back and appreciate it. I can see that.
Okay.
And they're actually, I have to say this sentence, given his, forays into fashion and dressing his wife, they are usually very choosy and specific about their clothes.
Okay.
That is hilarious.
Mystery solved, right?
I'm telling y'all,
it's good to know.
This is all for fun, but it's also very interesting and insightful.
Very insightful.
Yes. So the last thing we're going to talk about,
I want vanilla ice cream.
Is not that. Jupiter. I just know it's where you find luck.
Mm-hmm.
And mine is in Leo.
Mine is in Libra, which means
my sun sign.
I don't know, because does Jupiter have anything to do with? I know Saturn is like knowledge and philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Does Jupiter have anything to do with money? Because
that is a good question.
Oh my God!
Some professional out there, I'm sure. Let's see. Jupiter symbolizes expansion, largeness, generosity, and luck.
Okay.
The planet rules the zodiac sign Sagittarius. Yeah. His is in Gemini, which is interesting. And real quick, what does that mean? Pushes us to think deeply, encouraging minds to grow.
Which he does.
Endless curiosity.
Which he has.
Learning and developing thought process. So that's our friend. Now we want to have a little bit of fun and not be as deep, but talk about some of our favorite couples, just non-couples or used to be couples. So going back to, because y'all all want to know about y'all love life. If you want a YouTube video to go off the charts, just do it on how to get love, how to find love, how to heal a broken heart. If you just do like 5 videos on that subject, you will probably be like having 100,000 views, because that's what everybody is attracted to. Mm-hmm. So just within astrology, we mentioned earlier, the moon represents your emotional self, and the Venus sign is like how you are in love and romance. So we wanted to look at Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Since they're like, you know, the power couple that everyone aspires to be, except me.
No shade. We're just going off the cuff. Jay-Z, his moon, according to Google, because, you know, sometimes there's misinformation out there, to put that disclaimer, his moon is in Aquarius. No shade to my Aquarius people, but if your moon is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is not the most touchy-feely emotional sign out there, that seems like a bit of a challenge to your significant other's moon. Their emotional self is in Aquarius. That's all I'm saying about that. But talk about contradictions. His Venus, which we talked about earlier, is in Scorpio. What did I say?
Which means he will demand
what did I say?
Soul.
The exes, you can't get over the Scorpio. So Beyonce ain't gonna never, ever,
She's
ever,
gonna
ever,
make
ever.
lemonade, iced tea.
She can't go nowhere.
She's gonna make sweet tea.
This man's Venus is in Scorpio. So no matter what he does, nobody's gonna love her as intensely. Venus in Scorpio. Beware, be scared. I don't know. And then Beyonce herself, she's not lacking in the Scorpio either, because her moon, I have to pull up a note on y'all while I chit chat on this. Her moon is in Scorpio. So now we're saying that
his love appeals to her most emotional self.
Do y'all remember? You remember the 2013 album, self-titled Beyonce, right?
Yep. And
she had a song on there called Jealous.
Oh God.
And now that song makes so much sense because her moon is in Scorpio.
I flipping can't. I don't know. I can't get past Jay being the most irritating man I've ever seen in my life.
So I wanted to pull up for you guys the fact that her moon matches up with his Venus. Mm-hmm. I should be charging for this information. If your moon matches up with your significant other's Venus or vice versa, this is the insight I have for you. So the first person's moon in the same sign as the second person's Venus. The Venus person makes the moon. So I'm going to just use their names in this case because Jay-Z is the one with the Venus, right? Jay-Z makes Beyonce feel comfortable. Both care a lot for each other. Both share a lot of values when it comes to a relationship. So that was her Venus. Her Venus is in Libra. I don't know what that means. But Venus is love and Libra is balance. So I'm going to say that
even though
she looks for a balanced approach in her relationships and her romantic life, which is probably why they drive each other crazy. So that's Jay-Z and Beyonce. If you want more, you can book us. pinkladiestalk@gmail.com.
DM for rates.
Exactly. It'll be $300 an hour.
Oh,
all right. So then on the other end of the spectrum, we have non-compatibility. Oh, Lord. So we're going to look at Drake and Rihanna. Why the fuck not? People are always talking about Drake. People are always talking about Rihanna. They're not talking about them together anymore because she's with Hassan. But why the fuck not?
So she's still with him because she was like the most impossible person to
Lil Uzi Vert just declared his love. You know what? I love Lil Uzi Vert. And let me just say, when he declared his love for her, the way he did it, it was so like, you couldn't just be like, oh, he was like, I'm not quoting word for word, but somebody was interviewing him. He said something along the lines of, I've always had a thing for, always loved Rihanna, but she would never even like look my way. And it was like,
you're right.
But it was so sweet. Anyway.
And that's how they get you.
Some of y'all who know just a little bit about astrology are not about to be shocked because Rihanna, now what's the most aggressive sign out there? Literally ruled by Mars, Aries. Miss Thing, her moon, which represents her emotional state, and her Venus, which is her approach to romance and love life, both are in Aries.
So all of those little eye roll videos we'd be catching and all of those sassy moments, it's explained.
I mean, really? Like, one of the most fiery of the fiery signs.
But I mean, thank goodness, because imagine if she was like any other placement with being a Pisces sun, that would have been like,
so now y'all can understand why Drake, whose moon is in Cancer, like literally Cancer, just so y'all know, is where the moon is at home, right? So if the moon represents emotions, then people whose moon is in Cancer, self-included, unfortunately, we may not show it all the time or show it in a stereotypical emotional way, but inside, emotions.
Or in his case, in his albums.
Emotions. Yeah, thank God I'm not a rapper or singer because we too close. Like, our birthdays are a day apart and we both got the Cancer moon. Like, I would just be talking about my ex that work at Waffle House, like Drake. Like, anybody got time for that.
Soapboxing about shit that happened 15 years ago.
And Drake has something in common with Mr. Jay-Z. His Venus is in Scorpio. There was no way in hell this was going to work out. Maybe sexually it worked out, but Drake and Rihanna,
he would try to control her.
Absolutely.
And she would be like, nope.
Not only that, so the Venus in Scorpio, yes, the controlling, the possessiveness. The moon in Cancer, he's crying. Emotionally. He might not be crying out in the open or like physically, but he's constantly getting like... Rihanna is constantly giving him the two-piece. So now we have given y'all such a gift. I don't even know. I hope you do you understand what we just gave you?
I gave you so much
insight.
And if you don't, I hope you take the time to learn more about it, because it helps a lot. It explains a lot, and it
explains a lot.
It just gives you great insight, like those weird tendencies you have that you don't know where they come from. If they're not directly from your parents, your signs
I don't
might
have any weird tendencies,
girl.
So. Anyway. Sun signs.
Fucking can't.
Kimber is a Sag, and she wanted to say something about her Sag sister, Nicki Minaj.
I never want to say anything about Nicki.
That's your sister.
No.
Her and Miley Cyrus.
Miley has like the exact same birthday as me, down to the year, and it stresses me out. It stresses me out because... I feel like if I were famous to the degree that they were, I would be caught doing things like, you know, maybe being drunk and getting into an Uber, or like, you know, walking out of Popeyes with a little something. Maybe at like, you know, 4 a.m. with like a kid's cone from Haagen-Dazs. But I wouldn't be caught wearing a dildo on stage.
I can't.
You know? Nicki is, I think, ending her dominance in the rap game very nicely.
Yeah, well, she's
married, or at least she's trying
now.
To, right? Like, she's trying to settle into her life. And I can respect that.
But wouldn't she have some conflict?
But she's had to, like, curse some people out lately. And, you know, like, she's doing, like, a lot of these little pigeon cooings over at Queen Radio.
I can't.
And I want it to stop. You know? I don't know.
Well, I mean, she had a thing, I guess, with Wendy Williams, which a lot of people lately have had a thing with Wendy Williams.
And I don't know how, because Wendy hardly has anything left for herself by the looks of her.
Well, she definitely went in on her show, Wendy did, about, I don't even know what the context was, but she was going off about Nicki's husband, his
she
criminal
throwing
history,
shots at him about him being a pedophile and her brother being a pedophile, and this and the other. But your husband, or well, now ex-husband / pimp, because that's essentially what you were, because he had you sitting up on your show in that big ass chair that you have to climb onto with your scraggly legs.
I can't.
Like, I just can't. I can't with her. Like, she's so fucking ridiculous. You can barely stand on your own, and you're sitting around here talking about how you gave this man every hole, including producer credit on your show, and now he's out here, you know, with a whole new baby, someone that he actually doesn't seem to mind being seen in public with, and you're talking about Nicki purchasing her husband. At least she has the upper hand, I think. You know?
Yeah, so she went off about that, and then I don't know what the cadence is of Queen Radio, so whenever the next episode is, people are wondering if Nicki's going to address Cash Doll. If you don't know who Cash Doll is, she's a rapper out of Detroit. She in the past had words with Cardi. First time, I remember exactly where I was when this happened. Cardi got the C. I can't talk. I haven't drank anything today.
It's been a weird.
Cardi got the key to the city of Detroit. And when I saw it, I was like,
that's kind of crazy.
Huh? She's from like New York. Why would she get the key?
Barry Gordy should get the key.
Had an issue with that. She's like, all the stuff I've been doing, and like, you know, because she's been steady, whatever, on the come up, and I've seen her with Meek Mill. I think I posted that to our story once.
There's just something about Cash Doll that I just have
an aversion. Anyway,
I just have a strong.
They buried the hatchet.
I don't know why.
So she was at a club with.
She looks like she plays for the NBA.
I can't. How tall is Cash? Anyway. Let me get back to the point. So her and Cardi buried the hatchet, and shortly thereafter, some barb was like, oh, she in the club with Cardi. I don't know. Something went off in their brain and was like, let me see if she's still following Nicki. And then it was, oh my gosh, she unfollowed Nicki just because she was hanging out with Cardi. And short version of events, Cash Doll went online, was like, I did not unfollow Nicki because I was hanging out with Cardi. We didn't even discuss any other females, and we did not discuss Nicki. I unfollowed her 2 weeks ago because allegedly, because we haven't seen any screenshots, and Cash Doll was very non-specific and vague, but allegedly Nicki came in her DMs being why. I don't know what that means, because no one would be shocked at this point. I mean, she is a Sagittarius, right? By anything
I'm just like,
that Nicki would say. So it's kind of like, either tell us what she said, screenshot it. It just seems like with her having a project coming out, a lot of people are thinking this is a way to get more.
Arkisha.
That's her real name?
Arkisha.
AAK? And Arkisha Antoinette, right? But it does, for me, I was just like, I'm still very neutral, but it does seem a little bit odd to randomly say that Nicki came at you crazy without showing us what she said or telling us what she said, and knowing that Nicki, like we just said, is very prone to going on Queen Radio.
She's a Pisces.
But Nicki's not stupid. Oh, Lord. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nicki, this is not a prediction, I'm just saying, I would not be surprised if Nicki doesn't mention it, because she's not stupid. Nicki may be in a lot of things, but when it comes to like these types of situations, I think she realizes this girl has a project coming out. She just told the world that I came at her crazy. Once again, did not produce receipts. So actually, I would be doing her a favor if I talk about this.
I mean, I feel like she's going to talk about it anyway. She's going to say, you know, like, these bitches are out here saying that, you know, they unfollowed me. And, you know, I mean, it's fine. I'm over here with my husband, and, you know, why are you bitches so pressed? Like, I can only imagine what the tangent's gonna be.
Like
I can only imagine what the fuck the tangent's gonna be.
Well,
it's exhausting. Like, why do we care? Why do we fucking care?
Because people like drama.
Rappers, like, you're not in their social or financial circle, so talking about it as though you are.
Come on now, you know
me.
the Barbs, the Beehive,
the Barbs that
what
don't
is Drake's
buy
people
the
called?
albums.
What are they called?
I don't know, the champagne flutes, since he's the champagne poppy.
All I'm saying
know.
is these people
The drizzy
are very
stands,
much invested in their idols.
Well, don't forget about your own fucking life. And buy their albums if it's really that real.
I'm not even talking about anybody famous.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody that I'm that like that I care that much to be like, oh God, what's going on?
I don't think
I'm not
so.
saying that's a good thing. In typical Libra fashion, I'm just very detached.
You're a parent.
I don't even be on their social. First of all, my youngest child, we're very much alike. And so even though other people, probably his dad too, are just like, dude, why do you have accounts that you don't have us connected to? I get it. Because he told me straight, he's like, I'm not trying to be connected to family. And I'm like, yo, I get it. You got a Finsta, I got a Finsta. We don't have to be connected.
Oh my God, I can't.
And then my other one that you know,
mm-hmm.
on a much better basis, is not on social like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get his paper and plan. He probably got his retirement planned already. So
again, prioritize, man.
I don't. And they came in. Hey, I can take some of that credit, but that's who they are as people. Mm-hmm. So I don't. If maybe they were active like that, then maybe I would. But like, I haven't even been active lately. So
I don't freaking know, man.
I'm just detached. And also, you know what's funny? We're talking about hip hop. It's not just the fact that I'm not listening to hip hop that I'm more at peace and all that stuff. I feel like it's not a coinkydink that I'm also so much more detached than I usually am mm-hmm. from social media. As I'm taking in all this music, I'm feeding my brain and my soul. Mm-hmm. That's for another show. Speaking of brains and souls and craziness and drama and people being invested. So T.I. I don't even know.
Smartest GED.
I don't even want to spend a lot of time on this.
I fucking can't.
I will just tell y'all this. I did see, because I wasn't like on social like that, but I did see posts here and there, so I got the gist of it. Mm-hmm. I got the gist of what he said. I got the gist that he clearly embarrassed his daughter and said things that taken literally, or even not taken literally, but everyone was taken literally, highly inappropriate, not just inappropriate, but like, you know, invasion of privacy. I feel like every human, no matter what your color, where you come from, if you have a disability, everybody deserves a certain amount of dignity. There's just a basic amount of human dignity that I hope I embody and I impart to other people. And no matter what someone is going through or where they are in life, you give them that. Yep. So I don't think it was just so much about him saying, you know, I go to the gyno with my daughter and she's 18. She's, you know, technically an adult. And I do a check on her hymen to make sure she's still a virgin. I think it goes beyond being embarrassed.
So disgusting.
It goes beyond being embarrassed. It goes beyond being humiliated. That's just, to me, you're kind of taking away from her human dignity. She's a human being first, right? So even if she was a boy and there was such a thing that was similar, you're tapping away at her dignity.
She's not like some horse that you're breeding or some shit like that.
Right.
And it just sounds incestuous. It sounds creepy. I get that the tone and the way in which it was said, because it's one thing to read it for sure. Because when you read it, it's
all I did was read it for the first however long this has been going on up until today. And it was by accident. I wasn't even looking for it. Yeah. I only read it. I did not see any video. I didn't hear any audio. Right. I only read it. And then I was watching something that happened to touch on it. And they had the clip from the podcast. And before we get into that, the first thought I had, and even my son called me about it, because I was like under a rock. I was laying on this couch, meditating or zoning, doing what I normally do. And he was like, what do you think about this? I'm like, what? I haven't seen I don't know. I don't care. He's like, no, I want to know your opinion. Like, tell me. I'm like, boy, okay. So now that I've seen the clip, put T.I. to the side for a second. What really stood out to me and bothered me, we're very opinionated on this show. We've had guests on the show. We've said things that people don't like. It's people watching last season's finale that's still pissed off about some of the stuff we said.
Don't fucking care
we
how
don't
you feel
care
about it.
So there's no way we would have been interviewing any man, celebrity or not, and him say what T.I. said, and us not, at the very least, clarify. If we didn't do anything else,
I would have thrown up a little bit.
I would have clarified before, jumping to conclusions, because I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah.
And even if we were somehow not thrilled with how we responded in the moment, because we've all done things and said things in the moment, then we go back, damn, I should have said this, especially if it's an argument. I know I'm like that. I should have said this, I should have said that, or that was the younger me. I wouldn't do that now. Now I would try to come peacefully. But Chi should have talked about her mama. But no. So point being, the fact that these women were laughing, yeah, you could definitely be like, I don't understand why they were laughing if you just read it. But if you watch the clip, I kind of get why they were laughing at the beginning. But as the conversation went on, I didn't understand why they were laughing, because there were things that he said after the fact that I would have stopped and been like, wait a minute. Am I understanding you properly? Make it make sense. But they just continued to laugh.
And this is why.
And they deleted the show. I don't know where I'm going to be 5 years from now, a year from now, 2 years from hell, 3 months from now. But if I'm on somebody's platform and they pull up a clip of this show and they're like, so what did that mean? So like, why were you laughing? Or why did you say that? Either I'm going to defend it or I'm going to say, you know what? My views have changed since then, but this is why I said what I said. But y'all punked out twice. You had an opportunity to have a very interesting dialogue, because as crazy as what he said was, like Kimber said, especially if you read it, maybe it came from a good place. Some people would say that it did now that the clip is out, right?
A lot of people did. A lot of people were saying that could have been a teaching moment. And that's this and that.
That could have been a teaching moment. And instead of making a teaching moment and standing up for women and trying to understand, well, where are you coming from, dude? And maybe we have an opportunity to educate you. They didn't do that. They just continued to laugh. And then when the shit hit the fan, whoop, they deleted the whole podcast. Like, really?
And this is why, for one, the way they went about it is just very reflective on where women are in media. Mm-hmm. I don't give a fuck how feminist you are or how you feel or where you think we should be. This is where we are. Because we'll sit in a room where women are being discussed in a certain manner that's frankly fucked up. There's no other way to put it. I don't give a fuck if it's a joke. I don't care what the intention was. I always stress that there has to be some tact. There has to be some kind of... Some things just aren't fucking necessary. Mm-hmm. Why? I don't care if you're like, doing that dumbass, shucky, jivey humor that everyone loves so much, where you're like, oh yeah, I'll go with my daughter and I check her pussy when she goes to the doctor. God. Like, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
But when you as a woman can sit in a room and just allow a man to say something like that and laugh along with it, that's exactly why we are where we are in media and everything else. Because somewhere inside, the people that are given those platforms are innately still going along with shit like this, mm-hmm. where you can't keep up with a room full of men having a discussion. So you'll either sprinkle in dumb, useless shit like Angela Yee tends to do, or you'll tee-hee-hee, ha-ha-ha, like these silly hoes did. And and then what happens? It turns into a spectacle. Mm-hmm. You guys look like a bunch of backpedaling bitches that can't stand in your shit. And even just clarify it and say, he was saying it in a joking manner. We understand that this may have been triggering for some people, blah, 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 blah. Didn't even have the presence of mind to do that.
They said that in a statement.
I bet it wasn't their statement.
After it was deleted.
I bet it wasn't their statement. I bet their PR person wrote that.
Maybe.
And the fact that, no one had the presence of mind to handle it right then and there, or see that this could potentially, especially in this climate where everyone's so particular, that it could just spiral into something crazy. It's like, all I can do is just, you know, just hit my Oprah.
Just on a personal note, like a lot of my closest friends, like people that I don't even live like in the same state with them anymore, have come out of conversations that started off being very much about conflict.
Yeah.
I said something or did something, they said something or did something, and we did not see eye to eye, and we went into a room or we went to a bar or we went wherever. Stop laughing at my reminders. In all this neurosis, I take care of certain things, okay?
Okay.
No, but so I don't know, maybe it's a lot of my intensity as a person or whatever, but I actually appreciate a difference of opinion, and I find that there's a lot of beauty in the back and forth as long as you keep it respectful. Right. And in my personal situation, like I said, a lot of my closest friends, we started out like this.
Right.
And then, you know, I've held their babies. I've been at their engagement parties. I've met their parents. So I am more so disappointed and a little bit sad because if you have a platform like that, one of the ladies from the show is Miguel's wife. So I'm sure that lent itself to growing an audience pretty quickly. So you have a pretty decent sized platform to have turned that into a teaching moment.
Right.
So even though they deleted it, you know, we're all like on this journey of growth. I hope that they learned from that. I hope they don't have the same tactics in the future. You never know who your guest is going to be or what the hell they're going to say.
And I hope they...
And don't be afraid to like turn it into a teachable moment.
And just fucking read and pay attention. Because it wasn't so long ago that abortion laws were being changed or at risk of changing. Mm-hmm. And then you're sitting here giggling about some man talking about, you know, his daughter like she's a geisha and he's about to put her pussy up for bids. Like, it's not... Like, just use your fucking brain.
And that was one of the unintended consequences. I don't know the details, but... You know, people were kind of foreshadowing it like, oh my God, do you know how many crazy men are going to try to come after her now? And sure enough, she deleted, I don't know if she deleted, but she either deactivated some of her social media. She unfollowed her dad. She was liking comments where people were saying he was possessive and controlling. And God only knows. I mean, what I was told was that it went crazy. Her social media went crazy. Yeah. So God only knows what type of crazy messages you know, these perverts were putting in her DMs.
Right, and then the sexual history that you have with your wife that's very public knowledge, you have no business to be worried about what your daughter's doing when your wife, as well as you, aren't exemplifying how she should be treated by someone when she does enter those sexual experiences. Mm-hmm. Like, just get the fuck on. And, you know, for someone that goes around... with a thesaurus and a dictionary under either arm, pretending to be so educated and enlightened and this and that, it's like you just don't... You're actually not. Because if you had some presence of mind, you wouldn't have said it that way. Mm-hmm. If that's how you meant to say it, you wouldn't have said it that way. You know, you could have said, oh yeah, I'm keeping my eye on her. Or, oh yeah, you know, I don't let her go out with just anybody.
We talk about all the time.
But to go as far as to just... Like, you reached, you stretched, you were doing aerobics, and now you look stupid. Mm-hmm. Now you look stupid.
So, one thing I'll say to end on that is, just like some of the other people and stuff we talked about, hopefully there was learning the hard way.
I don't know.
What could have been learning the easy way could have transpired on the podcast. But since it got put in the court of public opinion...
God.
He had to learn the hard way. And I do think, and I didn't watch it. Sorry, I will watch it because I do love Jada Pinkett's show. But I did not watch the Red Table Talk, so I only saw a clip of that also. It was very, it's worth watching. That's what I will say. I don't want to give anything away because I don't want people to give our stuff away. But if you watch that, I will say Jada spoke in a way to him that he needed to be spoken to. I'm not trying to give it away, but I'm trying to tell you, watch it. And
there's justice.
There was something that came out of that, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, no matter how fucked up he was, that's still his daughter. That's their family. I'm not in their family. As long as there's progression from this, and learning on his part, that's the most important thing.
And I hope it brings awareness that people need to be more considerate of how women are viewed and treated and discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't too long ago
that
there was like a viral video of a woman being raped in a club and no one did anything.
Yeah,
like those kinds of
that.
Things, like this kind of incident where he carelessly threw that out there, it brings me back to that. Like how endangered we are just because of how we're made. So if there's anything to take away from it, it should be that as well.
And I don't know if it's more reporting or if it's literally a ridiculous increase in women being abducted by Uber drivers. I didn't even go out last weekend just because, timing changed. And I was like, I don't want to be in an Uber coming back at X time of night.
There's like a spike in sex trafficking as of late.
And I'll be honest, there's been at least twice here in New York City before Uber was as big of a thing as it was now, where I was in danger in my cab. Mm-hmm. I will never forget, I was living in Washington Heights. Cab driver apparently lived in Queens. And the only reason I knew that he lived in Queens is because he told me he was taking me to Queens. And I'm like, can you just take me home? And I was beyond mortified. I don't even remember what I said. Probably said somebody was waiting up for me or whatever. But eventually I did make it home. But I had to go back and forth with him. And the other time it happened, believe it or not, I was in freaking Naples. I was in Naples, Italy. And the cab driver told me that he didn't say anything racial, but there was like undertones. He's basically like, no one's going to come looking for you.
Oh, fuck.
No one's going to believe that I did this if I take you to a hotel, and I can do whatever the fuck I want, basically is what he said with his Italian accent. And I went back and forth with this man for a good 20 minutes. And it's not like I said anything different. I just kept offering him, I'm like, whatever I owe you, I will pay you 50 euros on top of that if you would just let me get out. And then he finally, and I bolted out of there, let me out. That's just two of my experiences. And those aren't even the only ones, but those were the ones that were the most terrifying. So now we have Uber, which in my opinion is worse than a taxi. Because, people can do sinister shit, but with a taxi, it's like a taxi commission and there's all this. And Uber's kind of like this fly-by-night, faceless company. Because if you've ever had an Uber dispute and you felt like you need to talk to someone, good luck. It's a series of do this on the app and do this email and wait 3 days and all this nonsense. There's not a person, right? I can call 311 right now and give you the taxi ID and license plate. And as much as we like to take Ubers instead of taxis, I'm not saying one is safer than the other, but it does make me less faithful in them as an organization, being that you can never connect to a person. And it's just, oh, well, their car passed the test that we have, and so now they can pick people up at random. So, I'm going to be a grandma this season. Unless I'm out with one or more people and we're going to the same place, you will not see me out this holiday season as you have in previous holiday seasons. Unless we all get in a room. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be out there by myself.
I've been a mixy charlatan in recent weeks, but my birthday week is officially over. I'm drinking water, not alcohol.
Turn up!
That's that on that.
So your birthday, tomorrow's the first day of December. We got 30-something days left of this crazy year. Sometimes I wonder if people just say stuff, to feel like there's camaraderie. But I do feel like I was so excited about 2019.
Me too.
At the end of 2018. And this year has been very difficult for me. It wasn't that it was difficult in January.
Because I feel like a lot of good things happened for us this year.
Yes. But
individually
on a
and
personal note,
together.
Things happened in January that seemed great and seemed not only did they turn out not to be what they said they were, and I'm not talking about a person, I'm talking about a situation, just so you know. This has nothing to do with my love life. it was a promise. I'll put it that way. I don't want to get into too many details. And that fell through. And not only did that fall through, it put me in a very bad situation that I'm still having to deal with right now. And I didn't go looking for the situation. I didn't offer myself up. Someone came to me and said, hey, here's something we think would be great for you. So that basically is crazy. I didn't think about it till the other day. It basically affected my entire year. My mood, my vibration, frequency, energy, whatever you want to call it. This show pretty much saved my life, having this as an outlet, given what was going on in the background. And then my family life has actually been very blessed, but it was also a lot of work, not in a bad way, but just a lot of support that I had to give, especially over the summer. So with all that being said, I'm cautiously optimistic about 2020, given that I was so excited because 2018 had a lot of challenges. So I was like, oh yes, 2019, new year, blah, blah, blah. And like you said, we have had a lot of great moments and successes. The Cypher being one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
And people asking when we're going to do another one. Yeah, when we get a crew of 20 people. It couldn't have turned out better. The turnout, and shout out to Dear Lovely Chaos, who was an integral part of all the work behind the Cypher.
Julia, the curly flower.
Yes, Julia, which she will be on our next episode as we close out this year. Shout out to Julia doing the damn thing. It was a lot of work. So what do we want to leave?
That was through the first retrograde.
Oh yeah, there was a retrograde. I forgot about that.
There was a retrograde while we were planning that. And throughout, from October 31st to the 20th of November, there was another retrograde. So there's been tons of I mean, I generally don't discuss this with everybody. I discuss this with people that are, in line and aware like myself. But I'll share this with you guys because, I'm sure we have some people that can relate or understand. If you feel like these past few months have been challenging, or things just haven't felt quite right, or you've been inclined to do certain things, whatever it is, mine has been to just surround myself with certain people, as cliche as it sounds, and just kind of, repel and move away from certain types of people and things along those lines. Just get out of situations that don't necessarily add anything to my life, or even if they're just, neutral, whether they don't add or necessarily take away anything, those things I'm also giving space as well. Whatever you're inclined to do, or whatever you feel like you need to do it. I think that it's definitely been that kind of time. If you're noticing a lot of things like names or numbers popping up repeatedly, pay attention to those things. It's just been that kind of past few months. But at the top of the year, I definitely had a very high energy, and I kept saying to Chi as well as some of my closest friends, I'm I just have a really good feeling about this year. And I was right too. I got my artist residency.
Yes.
Shout out to OMR. I was busy. I learned that my art could be in demand and make money. I learned a lot. And I've experienced a lot, and I've expanded a lot since getting rid of certain connections that I realize now were pretty much blocking me from doing what I need to do, and getting closer to, my purpose in life, which weirdly I always knew, but somehow came back around full circle, almost over 15 years later.
Wow.
In addition to that, for 2020, I feel like it's going to be just a continuation of what we've already put in place for ourselves, be it, whatever projects we do together going forward, as well as for us individually. So I can't say it's like a high, super cheery energy that I have coming into this year. It's more of like a steady certainty and a confidence. Like I could bet my fucking life that 2020 is gonna be the shit. But I do have some requests. For certain things to stay in 2019. Starting with the tongues, put them back in your mouth. Especially if when you do it, it's not cute. And especially if your tongue is very white. Put it back in your mouth.
You gotta brush that, honey.
Put it back in your mouth. And
stay away
twerking
from bread products.
On my screen, you know, like I do what I can to where Instagram doesn't suggest certain things for me anymore other than cats, nails, you know, pictures of like super tiny things that are in tiny houses. I like to watch people cook tiny
such
food.
A weirdo.
Like, you know, anime shit like that. Like I don't see much else, but we have like children on video snatching off wigs and cursing and putting them back on. We have, you know, just so many things that give people outside of our community the satisfaction of knowing that we'll never be anything else, and they don't have to expect anything else of us because we don't have anything else to offer. I hope you're open to that. Like, I hope you're open to, you know, because I'm concerned personally, because I'm someone that's always thinking about what I have to do in the moment, presently, and tomorrow, as well as years from now. I see myself being someone that has an established career of my choosing and a successful future and eventually a successful lineage that will contribute to our overall existence on this planet. So if you can't think as far as the douce that you're about to drink or whatever the fuck, and you can't think about the next job interview, like going and not having on like a Fashion Nova fit and false lashes, like if you don't have like an actual plan in place that will solidify your place in a society that's changing rapidly, like I'd like you to just consider that.
Amen. I think, two things that you said that stood out to me, that we are in a time, personally and collectively, where things are changing rapidly. And so you have to be able to adapt, you have to be nimble, and you gotta...
If you don't have a master's degree.
I don't have a master's degree.
Not everyone does, but you see, you have resources, talent, you know... You're not gonna go to a job interview with like orange eyeshadow and you know,
but what I was
down to your ankles.
No, not to the interview. But what I was gonna say was, because of that, not only do you have to be nimble and be able to adapt, but you have to be constantly kind of putting new things in your toolbox. That's just to survive and thrive. So hopefully everybody's trying to survive and thrive, right?
Because you don't have to do it in a traditional way.
Right.
I by no means have taken the beaten path. As smart as people say I am, I refuse to...
People think that I have a master's degree. But
right, exactly. I've put people through school doing homework for money. Listen, you don't have to do it the traditional... It's not, but... You still have to be conscious.
You can still educate yourself.
Yeah, like, oh my God, guys.
And the other thing I was going to say that you kind of touched on, so I'm not going to preach to anybody, because people going to do what they want. They're going to think what they want. But all I'm going to say is this. If you make decisions about your love life, try to think long term. That's all I ask. You can do whatever you want. You can have fun, have those benders. We all have nights that, you know, still live in infamy amongst our friends, self included. But think down the road, right? And if you're a man and you're trying to get somebody who has it going on, and that's all I'm gonna say, has all the attributes that you want, then you have to come with something more than the basic, sexuality and all the superficial, the money, all the superficial stuff. I think we get on women a lot for that, but I'm seeing and experiencing a lot of this from men who meet me out and about and think that because they have a certain amount of money or they have other attributes or they look a certain way, that's
I never said there was a price tag on me.
So think long term and think about the connection you have with people, friends and otherwise. And based on those connections, especially in the romantic area, okay, can I build something with this person? Because even if you're that man who's just like, I don't really care, I'm just trying to get something off, I'm just trying to get as many, beautiful women as I can in my life, at some point, everybody reaches that point where they're just like, okay, now what? And I have, an older relative who is now sitting back like, oh, dang, all my friends are celebrating anniversaries and I'm really seeing the value in being with your best friend, your wife or whatever. And it's like, yeah.
I mean,
that's why that exists. That's what it's about. It's not about all the notches on your belt and stuff like that. So, whatever your lifestyle, that's up to you. But, if I saw these types of people 10, 15 years down the line be happy, I wouldn't even be having this discussion.
Right.
But that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
So.
And I'm looking at a lot of y'all and I could
just
see
saying.
It's going to be even shorter for some. It might not even be fucking 15 years between scamming and whatever else the hell y'all do and lean and whatever else. It's looking more like 5 to 10.
I
but
can't.
To touch on, the relationship aspect as someone that isn't particularly dying to have children, to put it as lightly as I can, and as someone that isn't particularly dying to be married, there is still something to be considered when it comes to just dealing with people, especially in that intimate way. I have been the person for the longest time that's always said, oh yeah, I know he's full of shit, but let me roll these dice. Let's go down this fucking hole. Let's see where it goes. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
It's taxing, it's exhausting, and you'll find that a lot of experiences pale in comparison to who and what you are. And each time you spend some of yourself on something that's less than you, it's going to take away from you. And I've always hated those fucking cliche sayings and all that boring shit. I always thought it was boring. I still think it's boring, but it's true.
Absolutely. And what I would like us to leave in 2019 collectively is overusing words. We were talking about this before we started taping. So if I call you and say, I love you, and then, the next day I'm like, I love you, and then you see me in person, I'm like, I love you, it kind of loses its depth. It loses its meaning. It's kind of like, all right, yeah, I get it. You love me, right? So I just feel like, in our quest as women to have more respect and things like that, we can't just throw the same word at any problem or anything we don't agree with. Misogyny, of course, is something that exists. It's something to take note of. It's something to hopefully heal, whatever. Yeah. But I'm seeing y'all just throw the word at anything.
Sprinkling it like it's
anything.
Salt.
He don't like Beyonce's new song. He's a misogynist. He only gave me a $3 tip because of misogyny. It loses its meaning when you are literally throwing it at every situation that has to do with a man and something you don't like. Man, something I don't like must be misogyny. Quit that shit. Please stop. Okay?
Yeah.
You can't even get any progress. No one's going to listen to you when you constantly saying the same shit, throwing the same acronyms, words, or whatever, when it's not
validity.
Appropriate. Yeah. And misogyny is just a word that I picked, but there's many more. are.
Energy,
you know who you are.
Loyalty, all the words that taste like candy to y'all that y'all just love to swirl around and nom nom nom. And
in 2020, I want to see, and some of y'all social justice warriors and people that just swear y'all on the right side of every damn issue.
Oh God.
Yelling and just calling people terms and names. I would just like to see more progressive and nuanced discussions.
Right.
Amongst people who don't see eye to eye.
Right.
We have beat, that's one thing I feel like all of 2019, we have beat that to death. Mm-hmm. You're a this, you're a that.
But
you
there's
don't
no
like,
education.
You know, it's just like, well, right. So
there's
you
no
just
explanation as to why I would be considered whatever you're calling me because I don't agree with or know what you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's none of that. So let's try to empathize.
And it is interesting. There are some times where you see people get finally cut through I've seen it on Twitter and they're like, oh, I didn't realize. Oh, well, thank you for educating me. But they started off like this. Mm-hmm. But that's far and few between.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. It's like communication is a big thing. Mm-hmm. Usage is a big thing because words mean things, and words, especially for me lately, anyone that knows me personally, I'm low key like a witch.
Have you improved?
And I like anytime I just say something, wheels start to spin. So be careful with what you say.
Has your communication evolved this year?
Considerably, you know. I have my moments where I'm very much, you know, I still have to assess. Mm-hmm. You know, I have to consult. Shout out to my near dear true blue friends, Vanessa, Shar, you. Like, I have people that I consult with. My dad. Oh, when I'm about to lose my fucking marbles, I will call my father and get that weigh in. Because sometimes I need at least 6 other brains to think first before I react. So yeah, and a lot of it is also knowing like I arrive at a lot of conclusions mm-hmm. each day because I'm always talking to myself and I'm always having like these inner dialogues and like these random like downloads and moments of like, you know, like, oh, eureka, like, wow. And it's more so about applying those things that I learned. Mm-hmm. So I'm always telling people anytime they call me and they're like, Kim, this person did this and that. I'm like, well, try and look at why they're doing what they're doing and not so much what they're doing.
Right.
So those are things that I'm applying to myself. And I'm looking at myself when I react the way I do or when I feel the things I feel. And if I can like pin it down, that helps a whole lot better when, you know, deciding whether to communicate or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely, 2 things. You mentioned your dad. So my dad, I haven't necessarily been going to him for advice, but and they say you fall for people that are like your dad. Like, my dad
There's no one like my dad.
Well, first of all, I told y'all my dad's from Houston. So first of all, he has this drawl. So there's that. Then he has this very distinctive voice. So I'm like, anytime I talk to my dad, I just fall back into being like this baby. I'm like automatically comforted by the sound of his voice. And so I've been communicating with him more frequently than I have in the past. And I've noticed that in addition to some other stuff we mentioned, that has softened me. I am just his baby, his little girl, like whatever. And, you know, he shares a lot of things with me, sometimes just randomly. Sometimes we're talking about certain subjects and I'm like, oh, okay. That's an interesting perspective, especially from an older man, you know. And then just on a personal level, like, yes, this year was probably the most that I evolved with my communications, having to be sensitive to family members going through different things. And like, you know, you can't just say things a certain way when you see someone is going through something. So it's like, I need to get this message to them without disrupting, you know, the space that they're in right now and making it worse. And then I have become, not just with the male species, but like with everybody, I have become much, much, much more vulnerable. And with you, like, a year ago, like, I don't think I would have seen the value in that. And because I always have to, you know, at least I had it in my head, or I had played the role of, well, no, I have to be the one that's there for everybody else. And so I can't put the burden on my friends and tell them that I'm losing my mind or I'm going through this.
Right.
So I'm very thankful for that. So we talk about stuff that we try to apply, and I think for the most part successfully apply to ourselves. So we're not just wagging our fingers at y'all.
Nope. We've been through the trenches, more so her, as she is, you know, way more far along in life than I'll probably ever be. I see myself with cats and plants, but, you know, she's got children and the whole nine. So it's not just hot air. It's not just, you know, like Joe Budden. You know, we're not just Joe Buddening out here. Like,
I can't.
We're actually speaking and just sharing.
And holding ourselves accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the scariest thing about a lot of folks who have platforms.
The people that love to keep it 100 don't actually.
When you fuck up, just say that you fucked up. Like, why is that so hard?
Because they don't have confidence in themselves, and I think that's what it is.
I guess.
And it's important that you cultivate that too in 2020 and just life in general, because then you'll find out who you really are and who you're supposed to be, and you'll find it harder to be easily swayed by the things that are swaying in our face.
Well, I would like to see within the realm of Black stories. The reason I'm saying stories, some people make movies, some people make, as Kimber's art was featured in, some people make web series, some people do short stories, blogs, books. I've been reading a lot. I have not seen the movie, but I've been reading a lot of thoughts that people have about the movie Queen and Slim. It is, from what I could tell from the outside looking in, haven't seen it, a Black love story. There does seem to be elements of police brutality and stuff like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But, you know, when you think of just Hollywood movies, regardless of the color of the characters, you think of, and I didn't even see this movie, but I just know it's a classic movie. That movie with Meg Ryan, I think, and Tom Hanks. Is it You've Got... I don't know, I'm mixing them up. There's one movie called You've Got Mail. And then there's another movie called...
Yeah, that is Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks. I love
Sleepless in Seattle. There's Pretty Woman. There's all these, like, classic romance. Yeah, some of them are rom-coms and some of them are just straight up romance. I mean, I'm probably the only woman that hasn't seen The Notebook, but people say I need to see. Have you seen it?
The Notebook.
They're like, oh my God, how could you not? That's like the best love story ever. And I'm like, the title's not doing it for me, Notebook, but apparently it's like
the
everything.
Notebook was like drilled into my brain when I was working at Dry Bar. They play it
I need to catch up.
It's rough.
I would like to see more, and take it anywhere. Put it on a web series. Put it in a movie. I just want to see Black love stories. That's it. Black man, Black woman, no police involved, no trauma, no struggle, like struggles, but like from a relationship
standpoint.
Slave
struggles,
right?
For a change.
Thank you. Like just like, you know, our relationship struggles. I'm trying to understand you.
Give us another Their Eyes Were Watching God or something to that degree.
I didn't even see that movie, so. But I just want to see like straight up love stories. One thing I will say, because now that I said the word love stories, y'all know I've talked about it on the show before. One of my favorite movies that I usually watch around the holidays, oddly enough, is Claudine with Diane Carroll. Now the late Diane Carroll. I just finished reading her autobiography. I've always loved her. Talked about that on the show. And we really lost someone regal, especially from the African American community, but from the Black woman community. And I cried. Like, that was my auntie when she passed in October, early October. And they only just recently had the memorial because Holly Robinson Peete shared some notes or thoughts from attending it on Twitter. But I mean, there was stuff in there, like, you know, he was a garbage man, she was on welfare, but that wasn't the focus. Of children. Yeah, that wasn't the focus of the movie. The focus of the movie was, her and her kids and the relationship. I mean, even something like that, I'm just tired of everything having to be, when it comes to our stories, a political statement. We are humans after all. We all have our own special stories and journeys. Can we just tell that part? That's just mine. I would like to see more of that in 2020.
I don't know. We'll see. All I can say is Godspeed, because I know what I'm about to do. And I hope everyone else figures out what they're about to do as well. If you haven't given it any thought as of yet, start thinking about it. It's important because ultimately, collectively, it will amount to something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeedy.
I want a, soft pretzel with no salt.
On that note, the next time you see us, we will have our lovely flower, actually the curly flower, Julia, who's been on some other episodes this season. Please watch and share the cipher. A lot of love, sweat, blood, tears, energy, and money went into that. We need the views to go way up on that. So make sure you watch the cipher. Watch it over Christmas break, what have you. Share it with some people. Make sure you're subscribed. There are a lot of
talented, amazing people on there. Fuck us.
Right.
It's literally about
the contestants.
Talents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
not just the contestants, even the folks that performed.
That as well. Shout out to AQ the God. Shout out to, the GOD. Shout out to Poet Niamora and KB the Lady. They were incredible. And they deserve.
And to be honest, like you said, it's not about us so much, but the folks that perform, these amazing women who
that are better than your favorite rappers that are out now.
Went through 3 rounds of competition. And our judges were fucking amazing. Our audience was amazing. And so I don't know if and when we're going to do it again. We hope to do it again in August this year. However, that was our first annual, right? Did you ever see Jermaine Dupri's cipher?
No.
Okay.
Did it even materialize?
So there was a lot, we're going to say it's a coincidence, but the timing of this cipher that was supposed to come out that never happened. I haven't seen anything, and that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen anything on a community level that's out there on YouTube, and that happened in Brooklyn. So regardless if you're watching us from the Midwest, Chicago, down south, Florida, East Coast, West Coast, check it out. It's definitely something that, like I said, it's a community coming together of artists, good vibes all around. Besides the fact that I'm still recovering from all the work, there was no way it could have turned out better.
Yeah.
I mean, if you couldn't be there in person, we put our resources together to make it available on our YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure your friends are subscribed. Make sure you are following on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, whichever of those 3 that you're on the most. And, Cash App, She's So Fly, CHISOPHLY, just like my Instagram. If you want this type of content and these type of events, which we did the live show at the top of the year, we would like to do another one of those, but that takes resources, that takes money, and, you can do that once or twice with your own resources, but it's harder to keep doing that, right? So if you want that type of quality from our community, our collective of Black women, help us out. Spread the word. If you can't donate, then spread the word. Share a clip.
Likes are free.
Exactly. So we'll be back next time with Julia. I'm really excited for this final 2019 episode because we're going to be paying homage to women that, one of my favorite episodes where we talked about female game changers, and we were talking about artists. For the most part, we did talk about Corinne Steffens Superhead too. So we may
lady.
We may do a whole show just on the video vixens that changed the game. But that show primarily focused on the artists that changed the game in hip hop. And so our next episode, we're going to talk about the women in hip hop journalism, broadcasting that changed the game. So Julia is the perfect person to have on that because she's currently studying journalism and radio. So we try to give you all the different perspectives. So that'll be coming up next time. This is a longer episode because we ain't been out here in a while.
Yeah.
But we're happy to be back in rotation. If you're in New York, we'll probably see you. For me, as long as the party ends by midnight, I'll probably see you at some parties or some museum openings. Anything you want to add before we close?
You know, I'll definitely be out and around. My first live painting debut since I've been out for like, I don't know, almost 3 weeks will be with DJ Silky Black.
Oh, okay.
You know, like, I just love his name. Shout out to you.
Silky Black.
He's the shit. I can't. But,
wow.
Yeah, I'll be painting live at his birthday party. He is also a Sag. That'll be on the 13th at the Well, which I also have a residency at, and I paint at.
Wait, where's the Well?
And it's in Brooklyn, some weird fucking neighborhood. I want to say like
follow her Instagram.
Greenpoint. I'll be posting it. Kimber Can't Draw is my Instagram, but I'll be there. That'll be my first live painting, and then I'm just gonna be mixy. Pretty much
December
every Friday.
13th, you said?
The 13th, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll be painting live again on the 20th, and I'll be back to my usual weekly scheduled programming. So, looking forward to that. And, yeah.
And I am... And I'm mixing it up with a lot of people in the art world. Not art, like art dealers, but like a lot of creatives. So I am... doing a lot of looking for collaborators, doing some independent projects. I think I said my Instagram, CHISOPHLY. So if you're looking to do some events or any other type of experiential type planning, marketing,
do a thing.
That type of thing, definitely hit me up. I'll send you the link to schedule time with me. Consultation is free. But yeah, we are back. We'll be back again soon, and we will talk to y'all next time.